All right, guys, we're back with the Guestless Podcast. My name is Jake Gallen, and I am your host. Today on the show, I have a longtime friend from college. It's been a little while since we've talked, but this man's gone on quite a journey, and he has quite an entrepreneurial road of success. He is the co-founder of Solo.to, or I should say to. This is something that we talked about in the beginning. The website is Solo.to. It's basically a landing page, kind of a more superior alternative to Linktree, for those who know, or the quote unquote link in bio, which is the infamous one. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Karr.
Hey, so it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. And, I'm a day zero fan of the show. And I'm sure you feel the same way on this. I love listening to entrepreneurs talk about the things they've created, their successes, failures, just like everything. I feel like it's just so motivating and even just refreshing to hear other people's stories and, look, these things are achievable. And that's just so cool to me. So I'm really excited to be here.
I really appreciate that. You were actually one of the very first people who reached out to me when I made the announcement, and you showed me your product of Solo and a landing page and how useful it actually is. And dear God, has it saved me time and time again over this 5-month journey with entrepreneurship. Had no idea. And you don't really realize how important a landing page or a bio is until you kind of start going down the road of entrepreneurship or content creation or different things like that, where you need just like a one size fits all for all of your affiliate marketing and links and everything. So I thank you for that, because
of course
it's been incredibly useful, and I do see the long-term potential in that, especially as social media grows, even though it's pretty much massive on a large scale for the world. It's only going to continue to grow and find different forms and variations along the way.
Oh yeah, and we're gonna get into that so much. We'll talk a whole bunch about it. I want to give some background information on myself,
of course,
just so people have some backstory. So I grew up in Las Vegas. I went to high school out here. I coded an app my senior year of high school, which we'll get into. I started college at SMU in Dallas, Texas. Then I finished my marketing degree at UNLV. And somehow I ended up in law school. And it's funny, I went to law school. I lasted about 8 weeks before I realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. And so it's crazy. I spent more time getting into law school than I actually did in law school. But it was a great experience. I have so many lawyer friends now, met a lot of really smart people. But anyway, so I dropped out of law school and I got back into coding. And now, as you said, I'm running a web platform with my partner, Eli, which is especially cool because it's powering your Guestless website. So, and so, I've worked on some interesting projects over the years, but I wanted to focus on 2 in particular, which is that app I made in high school, and Solo.to, the platform I'm working on now.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of to cover, but first I'm curious, and I actually never asked you this through the entirety of our friendship, is what brought you back to Vegas after attending SMU for 2 years?
Well, so I have such a good close network of friends out here in Vegas, and I'm still best friends with some of the kids I went to middle school with, and it's great, just those lifelong friendships. And I do have a lot of really great friends out in Dallas, and they've gone all over the world working now, but still just Las Vegas is the home to me. And I love it out here. I love everything about Vegas.
It's interesting that you say that too. Everyone, for the most part, always comes back to Vegas that I've seen after either during college or right after college. But you came back and, you went to UNLV, but then you started 2 different tech adventures along the way. And Vegas isn't even known for tech. So can you touch a little bit on the tech landscape out here in Vegas?
So it's hard for me to touch on it because all I really know is the stuff that I'm working on. And when it comes to the whole tech scene, I don't really look around At least not locally. I look around like online. But I do know like it used to be, they were trying to make Vegas the new Silicon Valley, and there's a lot of money getting pumped into it, but nothing like ever really happened to it. I was excited for it because it sounded cool. I was hyped, but I don't know what happened. It's just, it seems like when it comes to a lot of the tech scene stuff, people are looking for the venture capital. And to do that, it's all like San Francisco, even New York. And there's just not a lot of that venture capital in Vegas. But what I hope to cover today and just like illuminate on a little is that you don't need venture capital to succeed in this field. You can just, with your own skills, be successful. And that, I think, is just the coolest thing ever.
It is. I think, in my opinion, from the app that I started, I was always afraid to go out for venture capital because you hear the horror stories of VCs coming in and taking, a third or even up to a half of your company, and you essentially lose control of the company. So. Oh yeah. And another huge downside of VC is it's not just free money. They are expecting hyper growth from you. And it's so much pressure where you have to do things that maybe aren't necessarily, and I'm not saying like this is in every case, but in many cases you have to do things that are at the expense of your users in a way. Like maybe like to get more money, you need to start selling user data or just, other, I'm putting air quotes, like sketchy ways of making money just so that it can turn a massive profit. Because so from what I've seen, at least when it comes to venture capital, they're looking to exit within a short amount of time, like maybe a couple years, and they're looking to make billions. And to do that, that's more stress than I would ever want to take on. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense for me. So I guess when it comes to entrepreneurship, there's so many different styles of entrepreneurship. And so when one person says they're an entrepreneur and then another person says they're an entrepreneur, they might be completely different, and they'll have completely different approaches to entrepreneurship. And I feel like it's good to learn about all these different approaches to it so that you can see like, okay, this makes sense for me. This makes sense for me. That doesn't. So I don't necessarily want to go down that route. Kind of like a la carte entrepreneurship. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Mix and match different philosophies and ideologies.
Mm-hmm. It's just so good to learn from as many different people as possible that are doing what you want to do in a certain field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of want to learn from their mistakes and learn their successes before you could go in, even though oftentimes entrepreneurs end up failing in some sort of manner along the way. There are those who get lucky in the beginning and hit the magical 100 or 1000x returns, results, user base, whatever your rating metric is. But for many of us who are just starting and you don't really have that necessarily that safety net or that backing, it's just open. It's open playing field. It's an open ball field, and we're all out here just trying to figure things out. And some people start that road early. Some people start that later in their life. It's about taking that leap of faith. And you started it very early, very, very early.
And so that's kind of another thing I want to touch on is just from the outside looking in, like people will see some of my successes, but they don't realize like in the past 10 years, I've probably worked on at least 20, maybe 30 projects that just like had no success or just like very, very limited success or like success for a weekend. And then that was that. And I just call it like you're practicing. And as long as you like limit your risk in a way, like don't throw all your capital at something that's not working, expecting it to like start working all of a sudden, it's not going to work. You just have to realize like, okay, this is working. This isn't working. Bits and pieces of this work though. And how can I take those bits and pieces into my next project? And it's always like, it's an iterative process where you keep working towards that final goal.
Yes. It's the philosophy that I associate myself with closely is the philosophy of skill stacking, which is kind of what you're interpreting through that, is learning different skills, building specialized knowledge and all the different things that you've done. And eventually it morphs into something that's so unique to you that many people can't replicate it, or you use your work drive on top of it and just outperform everybody along the way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%. And the cool thing about entrepreneurship is you can try, but you can't really learn this kind of stuff in school. And I'm not saying like I went to college myself, I have a degree, but you have to be cognizant that they're trying to morph you into being a good employee basically for a company. And the companies were started by entrepreneurs that have been started on this process early and have worked their way to grow something massive. And you pick up all these like random skills, not so much from books, but by just going out and doing it and taking chances and failing and just constantly learning.
Yep. That's why I like the capitalistic model. I know it's kind of been casted in a negative view recently over time because of the billionaires that it's made. And I mean, that's something that can be a topic for hours on end, but that's something that people don't realize is when you go down the road of entrepreneurship, you're basically holding off on results for years and years. And that's why it has an exponential return. People don't realize that, you survived on top ramen and water for a few years, or, you didn't go out to the club for 3 or 4 years and you had all those FOMO nights and all these different missed opportunities socially so that you can succeed in a business manner down the road.
And that's kind of like the whole lockdown and quarantine, everything, just trying to spin it into a positive light. Like there's nothing going on right now. So like, even if you want to go out and party, like I guess you can try, but it's just like so much easier to just like sit down, learn some skills online, try to start something up, and just be ready for when things come back. And
Yep. It's the best rebranding opportunity anybody can have. I literally say it time and time again. I won't stop. And I think a lot of people have started doing that. When I started this podcast, Amazon was actually sold out of microphones and mixers like the day or two after I ordered everything. So a lot of people started hopping on that. And this is something also that has results that are paid years afterwards, after success. People are starting different tech companies. If you go back to the 2008 financial crisis, Uber was created. I believe Airbnb was created. That's kind of when social media began to form into the Goliaths that they are today. So it's usually in a time of panic where people think the world is going to fall, the world is dying. We've survived for this long, and you have to have that mindset that it's building time now, and in face of adversity of what the macroeconomics kind of perceives the world to be.
Yeah, and I think it's best to just stay positive. Try to avoid like negative sources of information as best as you can. I know it's thrown at you at every single angle. I don't even have a Facebook, as you know. I deleted it back in 2014 or 2015. Just cold turkey, just pulled the plug, never went back, and I've been happier. I freed up like 2 hours of my day every single day, just not going and checking it.
You're a trendsetter in that way. That's the whole Facebook debacle didn't even start until what was that, 2018, 2019, or the election, I guess, 2016. So you saw that before anyone. And that's probably because of your entrepreneurial path that you've gone on, and you understood technology and you kind of saw what was happening behind the scenes before a lot of people did.
And it's so funny because around that time there had been some text messages that had come out from Mark Zuckerberg when he had been just starting Facebook, and he kind of like made an insinuation that all these people are stupid or dumb for trusting him with their personal information. And like, I think that's a huge red flag. If the founder of this company is saying that in a conversation that he thought was private, it's just like really telling. It's like, wow, why would I be on this platform when that is how he feels? And I'm not saying like people don't change. Like it's been so long. People change sometimes, not always, but it just like it rubbed me the wrong way, and I deleted Facebook and never looked back.
Yep. That was that malicious intent was kind of highlighted in the Social Network movie and in various other occasions that have happened thereafter. And a lot of people are really turned away by it. But it did highlight that technology can be used in this malicious intent and it almost be like an effective spyware in a sense, depending on who's running the company. And now I think today even more, the emphasis on who the founder is of technology companies is just as important as the actual platform itself.
I completely agree. And the cool thing with capitalism is if you don't like what someone's doing, you can come in and do it better, do it the way you would want to do it the right way. And it gets me so excited.
Yes.
to be in a position like that.
All right, cool. So let's actually go back now to I guess you'd be your first success. My first question is, so this first app, which was called 69 Sex Positions that you created back in 2010, I believe, somewhere around then.
That's when it launched.
Yeah. Was this your first crack at entrepreneurship?
I guess publicly, yes. If I have to like go all the way back, I do remember like in kindergarten, I was in Wisconsin still before moving to Vegas, but I just remember like we would have recess and there would be like, it was very, very snowy. Like it goes like negative X degrees there. So it's freezing. But I just like during recess, I found all these like icicles. And they had those like little red wagons that you could drag around. Mm-hmm. And so I collected just like a bunch of these really cool like looking icicles. And I would just like bring them around and like none of the kids had any money. So I just like kind of offered them like, here's my official icicles basically. And people really liked it. They would bring them to class and like they would even trade them. They were really cool icicles. I still remember that. And so like there was no monetary exchange, but just the concept of like, look, I found something that people found valuable and was able to offer it to them. The whole kind of basis of entrepreneurship kind of like revolves around that. In a way.
Yeah, you were branding yourself literally at 6 years old.
Yeah, and so that's just like one of the earliest things I can remember. But then another thing, when it came, the first code that I ever remember writing, I think it was in third grade, at least the first software code. We had this class where it was a computer class where you like write little codes and there's this turtle and you write this code to make this turtle draw things. And it was really fun. Like, it was kind of like a little mathematical, like you had to get the angles right. And you had to say like, oh, the turtle goes this distance. And so I had so much fun with it. But what I had found was that you can make the code jump. And what I mean by that is like, you could have it, like do a couple lines of code and then at the very bottom, jump back to the top of the code. And so I created a loop. And so now all of a sudden this turtle was running the same code over and over and over. And what I also found was you could set variables, and I tied these variables to like keys on the keyboard. And so this turtle, it wasn't just like making like these basic designs anymore. Now it was like the turtle was on psychedelics and it was just going crazy. Like, so the turtle would go up and down, like every direction. You could control it with the keys. You could, it was constantly like changing the color. And it was just like I just created like a little program that I was able to save on a floppy disk. And pretty soon, like everybody was like putting their floppy disk into my computer to save the code, and just everybody was using it. And the teacher was so impressed. Like she had me like break it down on the whiteboard for everybody to show like, oh, look, like you can make the turtle like kind of, it was a program because it was just looping and doing stuff. And like people in the class just made some really cool artwork. And it was very, very abstract artwork. There's no like beautiful houses or anything. It was just like a bunch of random colors all over the place. And that's kind of like what initially got me just like really, really excited about like, look, I can just write this code and people can like run it themselves and create cool things with it. I wasn't selling that either, but I called my fake company Microsoft. And people really appreciated it. I remember signing a couple of floppy disks.
Wow.
As like the artist. And it wasn't anything crazy, but the results, you could just create this crazy artwork. And it just made me realize like, wow, like coding is awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot of potential in it.
Absolutely. And so like, those were like the kind of like most significant things that I remember working on, but it had kind of just been all building up to the point where I had an iPhone, the original iPhone that had come out. And when the iPhone first came out, there was no app store. It was like literally the only thing you could download. Well, you couldn't download anything basically. It was just the apps that Apple put on your phone. And then they introduced the concept of the App Store, and it was just like, wow, this is like so cool. Like people like are making these apps and just putting them out, and you can just download them. And so just the whole concept was so cool. It's like if you put out any app, it was going to get a lot of downloads, even if it was just like totally like crap.
Yeah, so you saw the potential in that right away through the skills that you had built along the way. And I do want to point out, it's funny that you said that first code that you built was built on a floppy disk. So that shows you like how far your technology ability predated the actual iPhone innovation.
And if people don't know, I think like floppy disk can only hold, it was about like 1 megabyte, which is like the size of like less than maybe like 1/5 of one photo on your phone. It's crazy how far we've come.
Yeah, it's wild. I think when I upload an average length of like an hour podcast, it's like 1 gig. So that'd be like literally like 30,
over 1,000
it'd be like 30 seconds of this conversation. For an example. So when you ended up finding out that the App Store had this ability that anybody could come in and upload whatever that they'd built as an app, was your first idea to go to 69 sex positions? I mean, at this point, you're probably in high school. Still seems, it seems immature at the time. 69 sex positions, like sex it's the butt of all comedic jokes, but yet it's such a like animalistic instinct in all of us that it's always on everybody's mind 24/7 or 23/7 maybe if you live somewhere else. But
well, so really at this point I didn't even have the idea to make apps yet. I had the impression that you still needed a huge company or team working directly with Apple to put out these apps. But like things changed summer before senior year of high school. I read this article from this guy on Wired Magazine, and it was just an interview with him. And he had created the #1 app at the time, and it was called iShoot. And it was like a really simple game. And just reading that, it was like, wow, like it's just him. It's literally just him. And he made the #1 app, and there was no company, there was no team. It was just him. And that's when I really got thinking like, wow, like I've done like some basic like coding, like web stuff before. I could probably like make an app. And so I got really excited. The first thing I did there was, at this time, it was so new. There were very like limited resources. And so I had there's no videos. I had to get 2 books from Amazon, and one was for Xcode, which is like the software you use to make iPhone apps. It's the only thing available at the time. And the other book was for Objective-C.
Those are still like the 2 most popular languages, correct?
They are. And so Xcode is the platform, and then Objective-C is the code that goes into the platform to make the app. I think now it's like Apple came out with their own language called Swift. But it's like there's many different ways to skin a cat. It's come a long way since then. It was, I think I'm just trying to say, it was very like rudimentary. Like if you're trying to learn it, like you couldn't take classes on it. There's no online videos. You just had to like read these books. And the thing with the books is like, they were mostly like tailored for like Mac app development, like software on your computer. And it's really different on your phone because you're like severely limited by the memory that was on the phone. At least at the time, like now there's so much memory on the phone, like like people just don't even care. But back then you have to be like so strict about all these like little nuances that aren't necessarily like relevant when you're doing web stuff. And so just like coding for the iPhone, it was so hard. It was nothing like web development. I thought it was going to be like similar, and I tried it, and it was just like I ran like straight into a cliff, and it was like I couldn't grasp it. So I kind of just like gave up. It was like, okay, like I gave it a shot. I can't do this, but I'm glad at least I tried, you know? And so then a couple months go by, and my best friend, or one of my best friends, Chris, he pitches the idea to me for 69 positions. And it was going to be a guide for, as you said, like sex positions on the iPhone. And I had a feeling that this could be really big, kind of just like a light bulb, you know, going off on your head. And it's like, wow, like this is it. And so like we did some research, and we found that there's only like one similar app at the time already in the App Store. And it honestly, like, it wasn't doing that great. But it was missing like this key feature that we were going to have. And it was missing illustrations. So
wow, you think that would be like the focal point of it? That's
exactly like come on.
It's as they say, and just like the famous motto in Vegas is that sex sells, no matter how you put it, whether it's actual illustrations of positions, whether it's like the alludation towards sexual behavior, anything that revolves around it, there's just that innate human instinct that just gravitates towards it.
It's funny, but it's true. And like we were so young too. Like it's not like we were, and not only were we young, we were going to a Christian high school. And so it's like this kind of stuff is like basically forbidden. We couldn't talk about this at school. It's just so funny. Like how did he have this idea? Like, like where did this come from? But I realized like, okay, like this could be something big. And so we pursued it, and we broke down the work like this. I was going to code it. Chris, who had the idea, he was going to beautifully illustrate it. He wasn't an illustrator, not an artist by any means. And our other best friend, Nate, he was going to write all the descriptions for it. And so our roles were just like really clear cutouts. And so I got back into learning how to do it. And it helped so much actually, like having a goal or like a vision to work towards, which was 69 positions. And it still was really hard learning how to code, especially like for app development. But it was like, as I was learning, every little thing I learned, I tweaked it so that it could fit in the app. if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So like all the components that they teach you, like little things, it's like, okay, now how can I modify this so that it makes sense to be functional within the app?
Correct. Like the ratio sizes and scrolling feature, different things of that nature.
Yeah. So like scrolling, like how to list like things out. It's called like a table view, different views, loading different tabs and thing, all that kind of stuff. I was able to like translate that to how does this make sense for 69 positions? And because I did that, it made it a lot more accessible rather than just like kind of learning all these abstract concepts and then not being able to apply them. And so that was great. It helped a lot. There was still like a lot of difficult things. And then I remember like when it came to the illustrations, the most important part. So Chris wasn't an artist. None of us are artists. And I searched online for so long. And what I found was these like vector graphics. And it was just like this man and a woman. The woman had no hair. But like you could tell she had like a pointy, bust. So it was clear that, okay, this is the woman, this is the man. We tried to add hair. It was a total flop. So we thought like, okay, like it's clear enough. This is the man, this is the woman. Chris positioned them into all these different positions. So many, honestly. So we started out originally with just like 69 positions, just to fit the name. And I think like over time, we just came out with updates, putting out more positions and more positions. And I think now we're at like 115. And it's funny. So a lot of the positions that we had named, it's like we had come up with some of those names, and it's just funny, like because the app, which I don't want to do any spoilers yet, but the app just got so big. It's kind of like I feel like some of these names kind of just came into mainstream culture, almost. But who knows? It could just be like other people, named them themselves independently, and we just had similar ideas. But
yeah, so interesting. So you launched this in 2010. It's still active, correct?
It's still active, and so all in all, it took us about like 2 months of work. I put most of the time in over Christmas break, my senior year, because like there's nothing going on. So it was for me, it was like 15-hour days. Just like all I had was a laptop. So I was coding in bed, like doing as much as I could on this, just trying to get it done. And so it was done in January, when we were going back to school, and I just like sat on it a little, and because it was done, but it's like now what?
Especially early in the days of the App Store, because I'm sure the procedures to upload were much different than they are today, and probably much less regulated. I know that like when I got Chameleon, when we started Chameleon to get it listed on the App Store, it took like a month and a half, and Corey did more of the tech stuff. And I know there was like so many different loopholes that you had to go through, so many different portals. And then if you add if it was any sort of payment in the app, they wanted 30% towards their own revenue. Was that the same in the early days as well?
It still is. It was true then, and it's true now. It's still, Apple gets 30% of everything, not just in-app purchases, but also if you set a price on it, Apple is getting 30% of that.
That's crazy.
It is, and there's a lot of people, trying to fight it. Trying to think. I know, like Spotify and Apple, we're going back and forth because like Spotify is a subscription, and then all of a sudden, like you do the subscription on an iPhone, now Apple wants 30%. There's a lot of back and forth. So in one way, Apple is doing a lot of work. They're hosting the apps on their servers. They are kind of promoting it just by being in the App Store, and it's all like through their process. So when I was 18, I was just like, okay, like this is just the cost of doing business. These days, now that I'm doing web development, I feel like 30%, that's like kind of like ridiculous.
Yeah,
like
it's ludicrous. It's very ludicrous. But back then, the value of $1 is much more to you than the value of what $1 is when you become an adult, right? Like they always say like $100 is the new $20 when you get older and you start racking up bills. But back then you're still living with your parents. You don't really have any outstanding debt. So any sort of income is profit.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, like I was living with my parents, so I didn't have crazy expenses, and we didn't even know like what was going to happen with the app. Like it might have not done anything, but at the very least, we just wanted to put it out there and see. Like it was exciting. And
how much was it to download?
So originally it was $1.99, and how we came up with that price, I don't even remember. It was kind of like we were looking at other apps and what they're charging and how much work we had put in. And we're like, okay, like this is like $2 worth. But before we even got it launched, I had to send it to Apple first. And I didn't want to like screw up this process at all. And so I had coded a separate app that I don't think anybody knows about it. I don't even know if like Chris or Nate knew about this other app that I coded, just because I wanted to get the process down, like kind of practicing it before the big one. And so I made this app called Contact Plus Plus, and it was just a simple like one screen app where it's like you enter a person's name, phone number, save. And it was kind of like a rapid fire way to just add contacts like really, really quickly. And it's like not that hard to add a contact, but the idea was like I was going to go to college and probably get a ton of people's numbers. So I just wanted to make it super easy. And like, so I got that out, sent it into Apple. They approved it within a couple days. It was pretty quick. And that actually ended up making like a couple $1,000, which was surprising. Wow. And it was only like $1. It was the lowest you can sell anything for on the App Store is 99 cents. And so I was just trying to get the whole process down. And so I was excited because now like I got the process down, have my first app in the App Store. Now it's time for the big boy, 69 positions. And so I sent it to Apple, and it was so frustrating. The first contact they give me is like, hold up, we're gonna need some more time to look through this. And I was like, oh man, they're not gonna approve this. Like I didn't get this email for Contact Plus Plus. Like, why do they need to spend so much time on this one? You know? And so super stressful. I just like, I didn't want to get my hopes up or anything. Just because like already that email it didn't sound good. And so like 2 weeks went by, and it felt like a month or longer. It was just waiting around. I didn't want to like contact them and say, hey, like, did you have a chance? Mm-hmm. Just because like, you know, I just wanted them to do their thing. And so 2 weeks go by, and I get the email in English class that I had with Chris that they approve it. And you're not supposed to have your phones like in class at all. They take it from you. But this was important. So, and I knew as soon as I felt the vibration, I checked it in my pocket, and it said like, your app has been approved for sale. And so like I tell Chris, and like somehow class kind of just gets interrupted, and we're all just like so excited. Like because obviously like we couldn't talk about this thing, but somehow it seemed like everybody at school knew. Which is funny. Like there's just a bunch of whispers. And even the teacher, like she knew, she knew. And she made some jokes about it in class, but like didn't say anything like, you know, specific, but she was obviously excited too. And then I just remember we went to In-N-Out after school that day, and our other partner Nate was with us too, who wrote all the descriptions. And the descriptions are hilarious, by the way, in case anyone ever checks it out. You can think of Nate. But so you know how they have the mics at In-N-Out to announce people's orders?
Yeah.
So Nate jumps up on the mic and says, attention, everyone, 69 positions now available in the iPhone App Store. Go download it now. And I think people just were pretty confused. like what? And I don't know if we got any sales or not from that. But I do remember, so our very first day, we did $40 in profit. And so whenever I look at the numbers, I just ignore Apple's 30% completely because I just don't even want to think about it because at a certain scale, it just gets depressing.
It's cringe. It's everything that you're like, man, I just missed out on a Tesla or whatever is back then. You're like, I could afford an apartment with that amount of money that I missed out on.
I know it's sad, but if you just like, it never hits your account. So it's not like it goes in your account and then you have to pay Apple. It's like Apple pays you after they take out their percentage. So you never see it. And they never like break it down for you. So
yeah, it's more of a what ifism.
Mm-hmm. And so I remember the first day, you don't find out the stats until the next day. So we found out the next day that we had made $40 in sales that first day. And that was actually, so it doesn't sound like that much, but it was significant enough that it got us to start ranking like at the very bottom of the app ranks.
Yeah, because you're still an early adopter at this day. It's still 2010. Yeah. The iPhone just came out in 2008. So it's really only 2.5 years, 3 years into the iPhone era. So you're an early adopter.
So even just like a small amount of sales, that'll still get you listed, at least for your category, at least back then. And then, so already that's getting more eyeballs on it. Then I remember the second day we had done $120 and like already that's like triple. And it just kept going up. It went to like hundreds a day and then like it went to thousands a day and it just kept going. And pretty much like all hours of the day, I was marketing it online, just like, any way possible. Like same thing you're doing with the guest list, just like any exposure, just like MySpace was big at the time. So I just messaged like all my MySpace friends to check it out. Yeah. Like still, I don't know if any of them, a couple people responded, but probably like most people are like, what is this?
Yeah, especially a lot of people didn't even have iPhones back then. I didn't even get an iPhone, I think, until like 2012 or 2013.
Exactly. And I was just kind of thinking like, okay, like any exposure is good. And if people talk about it, that's even better. But so what I remember is like one of the biggest marketing things that I did was shortly after the paid version came out, I came out with a free version, which I just like copy and pasted the code base and then cut out a bunch of the positions. I put some ads in there, which like for this kind of thing, like the ads never made us much money at all. I think it just kind of like depends on the app you have. Like if somebody is using it every single day, like all the time, like maybe ads make more sense, or if you have a game or something, but it's just like, it was the hard sales. Like that was what did the most for us. And so the idea with this free version was like, give people a taste of it, get as many downloads as possible and just kind of like funnel people into the main paid version. And it worked. So that just started climbing the charts on its own. And the interesting thing that I did with this second app is that instead of listing it as a lifestyle app, so I did lifestyle for the first one because it was a small category. For this next one, I put it under entertainment, much bigger category. And I knew that if we could get ranked in entertainment, those are the kind of apps that people want. Mm-hmm. And it was true. Like as soon as like that got listed in the top entertainment app, it just like was climbing. It was crazy. Like just this snowball effect. As it was climbing up the charts, more people were seeing it, more people were downloading it, and then more people were converting over to the paid version. And
how high did it climb to?
So at the peak of it, the free version got to the number 4 overall app in the App Store.
Wow. And overall?
Yeah, overall.
Wow.
And that was it, there was about like 250,000 apps at the time, somewhere around there. So it's pretty significant. But we had 2 apps. Mm-hmm. So the paid version went even higher. It went to number 3 overall in the App Store. And this was also, it's so funny. So the paid version, it was a lifestyle app, and the free version was an entertainment app. It was ranked number 3 and number 4 overall, but in their categories, 69 Positions was the number 1 lifestyle app, and the free version was the number 1 entertainment app. And I think like maybe for this reason, this is why Apple kind of changed the layout of the App Store. But when you went to the categories for lifestyle or entertainment, it had a big 69 on it. For both of them, because it would show like the number 1 app, like the thumbnail for it or the icon. And that was just so funny. I saved screenshots of that. It was hilarious. And then on top of that, so it used to be like when you open the App Store, the first thing it would show you is just the top list of apps. And so 69 Positions being number 3, it was like you open the App Store, 69 Positions is right there. And it was just so funny. Because anyone, like I could just tell anyone, hey, open the App Store. And that's it. They see 69 Positions. Boom.
That's fucking amazing. That is incredible. Yeah, how much? So how many downloads did you receive the first year, and then how many downloads stand to this day?
So I remember basically the exact numbers. When the paid version was number 3, it was doing 15 grand in profit per day.
Per day?
Per day, yeah.
Shit.
And like I said, we were 18 years old. We were in high school. Like this is, I was kind of confused. Like do we drop out of high school? Like what are we supposed to do? And the free one, it was doing 150,000 downloads per day. And what we've seen is like, the conversion rate has been pretty much like 10%. And I think it's for the most part always been pretty consistent. It's gone down over the years. I don't remember the exact number of downloads we made for that year. But I do know overall that as of this January, we've had 12.5 million downloads. And so most of those were obviously like front loaded, like in the early days. And since then, we've translated it into 8 different languages. It's been the number 1 app, like 1 overall in Japan, France, and Turkey.
Wow. Maybe because I know in Japan a lot of their porn is blurred, so maybe that was part of the reason why they migrated over to that. And
I guess so. I should mention our beautiful illustrations. They're kind of just like shadow things. Like it's not explicit. I feel like that's important. Yeah,
it's like a silhouette.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a silhouette. So it's not like this is. So yes, it's sexual, mm-hmm. but it's not like we're just like putting out these like gross pornographic images. They're very, very tasteful and classy. I think we've described it as. But yeah, so there's been a lot of ups and downs over the years with 69 Positions, but that's basically the gist of it. And I love just like looking back at this story, and because it really just shows like, what's possible at any age, just being resourceful, just getting laser focused on a project. And I think it's really cool.
It's all about just groupthink, and you had 3 of you together, and I could see how your mind becomes skewed, especially when it comes to college. When you're getting $15,000 a day, you're like, what is the point of college? And you hear all these success stories, and something that you'd brought up too is you go to college so that you can become a great employee for the skills that you need, and then all of the business owners are all the entrepreneurs who took a leap of faith like you guys did. And it wasn't even necessarily a leap of faith because you guys were still so young. It was just like something to do, something interesting.
Mm-hmm. It was just like a fun thing to work on. And we thought like, it was silly to even think this, but we thought like if we made like $10,000, like maybe the school newspaper would cover it. And just like to show you like where our heads were at. Like we had no idea how big it could be. We just had a feeling. But the feeling is great. Like the feeling just keeps you motivated to keep working on it. Cause like there's so many people have so many ideas and things that they start working on, but then just somewhere along the line, like you hit some resistance and then you give up, and it's like, you need motivation just to get you through it. Even with me, like I initially tried learning the coding for iPhone, and I couldn't do it. And I thought there was just like no way. And then the idea 69 positions just gave me that motivation to really just break through. And that just made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, it's an incredible feat, I must say. I'm curious, was there any pushback against you guys because you're going to, a very religious school, and sex is kind of, there's a different perception around it. And, now you have, at that point, you're making that much money, so it becomes widely known. Was there any pushback from maybe your peers or the teachers or any of the family members?
So yes, I'm sure. I remember I even like hesitated to tell my parents that I was working on this, because I didn't know like what they would say. And then finally, like when it was basically done, I told my dad, and he was hyped. He was really excited. I told my mom, and she was like, "Oh, you're going to get expelled. Why are you doing that?" But okay, but it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the app is just it's not vulgar. Like it's a tasteful guide to sex positions. Mm-hmm. And like, I've gotten emails from people, like you can even to this day, like read through some of the reviews, and people say like, "Saved my relationship." Like there's a lot of positive ones. There's also a lot of negative ones. So I shouldn't be like, there's nothing negative, but they're funny. They're really funny. And at one point I got an email from a family counselor, and he told me that he recommends it to a lot of his clients. And I was like, wow, that's really, really cool. I had no idea. Like, so there's a lot of good things.
Yeah, no matter what project you're building, whether it's an app or content or something that's just useful for maybe your neighbor, at the end of the day, the positives vastly outweigh the negatives, just because you see that you're helping people, and also you're making some profit off of it so that you can make a living. But more so, just getting that feedback can make your day, and it pushes you to keep going and then eventually evolve into something else.
Yeah, it really does. Just the feedback is so awesome, because it's, especially like when it comes to an app or something, we don't necessarily see all the people using it. And so just like hearing things from people that are using it and the ways they're using it, it's just like, it feels nice to know that you help this person in some way and they're happy.
I do hope that you don't see the people using it.
No, good point.
Okay, so let's move on into a little bit of your journey. So you created this app, huge success, I must say. You went off to college, came back. Mm-hmm. Did you continue to work on the app while you're in college? Was it something that needed any sort of maintenance? What was your idea of going to college, even though you had all the success and you were even considering dropping out of high school at one point?
Yeah. So like when we were making that much money, there was like a little confusion, like now what? But what we saw was like the growth. It was like hockey stick growth, like boom, boom, like just straight up so high. And then it just came down almost like as quickly as it went up. And then it kind of like plateaued for years, like so many years. It just plateaued at just like a comfortable level. But not anywhere near like, okay, like let's drop out of high school and not do anything. but so it's kind of like really humbling because like you run in a calculator like 15 grand times 365 and it's like, okay, like we're set. but then it didn't stay that way. And I'm glad it didn't stay that way. Because like it just kind of like takes you back to reality and like, okay, like now what? And so I went to college. I decided to do a business major, just because like I felt like, okay, I know I can learn coding on my own, but I really want to learn like the business side of things now. And I had worked on like some small projects. I remember like my friend and we had started like an app development firm kind of, but the idea is like we didn't want to do just like contracting work where like one company hires us and we do all this work on an app. We wanted to create this like base platform, and it's like, okay, you can you'll pay like a large like one-time upfront fee, but we could turn around these apps for you in a day because we had the base platform set. Mm-hmm. And then to keep it maintained, there would be like a recurring monthly kind of subscription. And there was like some success for it, but the thing is like, so it was a great idea early on because nobody like really knew app development. But as soon as they started teaching it in colleges and just people all around the world were getting into it, it just drove the cost of everything down so low. And we were seeing is like, even though like we had a pretty good like base app for businesses that wanted to like, you know, list stuff like a restaurant, list their menus, things like that, it's still like all these businesses just wanted to do really, really custom stuff. And it was just it didn't make sense for how much like we could charge versus how much work that had to go into it. And so luckily like that small business, it got acquired for really, really little, but we were just happy kind of to get out of it. And they were happy because they got a bunch of like great clients, and they were a big company. So they were a much better fit to like handle that sort of thing. And I don't know. So when it comes to apps, like another huge downside with 69 positions is it's really hard to market it, because even though it's not vulgar, it's still adult content, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so no ad networks will touch it. And it just like, it's really like limiting like what you can do with it. And so I've even tried like putting out updates and even like, so, well, I guess I'll get into it in a second, but I wanted to just keep putting out updates because like the idea is like, okay, you put out the updates, you make it better, it'll get more sales and it'll be great. But just with Apple's algorithm, what we were seeing is as every time I put out an update, it would hurt the search ranking. So at one point, like if you search for sex in the App Store, we were the number one app. It was 69 positions. If you search for sex positions, we were the number one app, sex positions. And I found that every single time I put out an update for this, it would hurt the rankings a little. And it's hard to say why. It used to be like in the past, if you put out an update, it would just erase all of your ratings. And so it would be like your app is there, but it has no ratings. So even though we have millions of downloads, it looks like no one's ever touched this. Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to be like the first one, like some people do, but the majority, like they don't want to be the first person like trying to figure out an app and then it's crap and they just wasted their time.
Yeah, they associate it with like malware or spyware if there's nothing that's touched it. Exactly.
And so it was just so stressful for me. So I was like afraid to even put out updates because I didn't want to like screw up our little plateau of where we had it. But then Apple, they're so strict. They basically say like, look, we're coming out with a new iPhone version and you have to update your app. And if you don't update it, we're going to pull it. So it's kind of like, it's made app development at least like really stressful for me, to the point where like, I just kind of like, I was like, ugh, like, do I really want to do this? Like, so I guess just that experience kind of turned me off to just like coding in general and app stuff. And so I was going through college and at some point I just like decided I'm really interested in like software patents and intellectual property, because there had been like a couple issues with people saying like, oh, I own the patent for in-app purchases, even though it's something that you can just do like as coding on the iPhone. And I don't want to get into that too much about
it's dense. It's very dense.
Stuff.
It's very dense.
Yeah, but it basically like made me think like what, like this is kind of like a messed up system. Like you can own this and it's like on Apple's thing, and like how does this even make sense? So I wanted to go to law school and just study like intellectual property and software patents and that kind of stuff, and just see like just learn, because I just love like learning in general. And so I kind of like spent all my college years kind of just like preparing for law school. And then, like, as I said, I finally got to law school, so excited. And then I realized just like how much work it actually like. So the learning part is awesome. Like you learn just so many like little things that are just really, really interesting. But the workload, like you have to read 100 pages a day of these cases. And then some days we would go back into class the next day and the professor would say like, okay, so that reading is totally irrelevant now because there's new case law. And that was so annoying to me. Like, then why did you just have me spend all my time doing that? And that just kind of got me thinking like, if I spent all this time getting back into coding and just working on stuff, I could like do something really big rather than just get a law degree. And I realized like I didn't want to be a lawyer, and 3 years is a long time. So I just didn't want to do that commitment. So it was 8 weeks in, I pulled the plug on law school, and that's when I just kind of jumped back into coding. But I knew I didn't want to do apps. After my experience, I knew I didn't want to do apps. But what I did want to do is get into web development again, which I had dabbled in a little bit before, but just getting back into it is what I wanted to do. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do yet. I just knew that I wanted to learn web development.
Yeah, and web development's much more advanced now than when you'd previously started 10 years ago. And I do also want to mention that you said 3 years is a long time. It's especially a long time when you realize that you can build a multi-million-dollar downloadable app in a few months. That just like completely skews your literal perception of time and reality.
It really does. So it just makes me think, well, so I value my time and other people's time immensely. And so, not to hate on the professor or anything, but I just felt like why even give us that to read if it wasn't relevant, you know? But man,
it's a long journey, entrepreneurship and apps. I worked on Chameleon Verified Network for 2.5 years, and we got some downloads out of it. I think we ended up with like close to 2,000 downloads before we finally pulled the plug on it. But there's so many loopholes that go with it. And this was also something that was an app that was tied into the web. So it also needed web development. And we faced the issue that we're trying to outsource everything, which is like rule number one that we pretty much broke when it comes to building an app and web development. But
was that expensive, all the outsourcing?
It was relatively cheap. I think we spent in total between Corey and myself around like $40K, $50K.
That sounds expensive to me.
Yeah, we had to update the app twice. The original model, I believe, cost like a little around 10 grand. And this is not just the app itself. This is everything between marketing and all the other things that surrounded it. Over 3 years, it sounds like a lot of money, but I think when you divide it up, I think the learning experience vastly outweighs any sort of monetary like value that we'd lost between it. It's about building those skills and learning everything through it. That's kind of like one of my views with entrepreneurship is, you know, we went into it and I was like, I hope this could be a big success. I wanted it to be a big success. But after a certain point, I was like, all right, we're hitting some walls. We had investor struggles and like some internal conflicts with the app and the direction and other things that were going on and building out and all these different variables that are tied into it. But now I'm very aware of it moving forward, and especially doing things at a young age and starting entrepreneurship early. Once you reach, your peak in the late 30s or 40s or however health advances along the way, you're much more prepared than the vast majority of the population.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think it's great to start early. Just as early as possible, honestly, and just learn skills that you can use. And so even though like the $40,000 and a lot of that went towards development, it sounds like a lot, but really that's how much it costs. Mm-hmm. If you're paying somebody for an app, it's expensive. So that's why I feel like, from my perspective, I would rather just learn all the coding myself, mm-hmm. and then we turn that huge expense into, we can spend it on marketing instead,
and that's exactly what you did. Mm-hmm. And you learned everything so that once you went back to web development, you already had the app experience. So you only needed to learn a small piece of the larger puzzle between it, mm-hmm. and maybe some small updates here and there. But you had that specialized knowledge, and you had your native talent of building apps that now you've built something that's very unique to your skill set and Eli's skill set, who's your partner with Solo.to. Yeah.
And so let's see, I guess before we get into it, let me tell you a little about Eli. So I initially met him at a rave in California, and we talked a little, nothing much. I don't even remember what we talked about. But just randomly, we had a marketing class together at UNLV, and I was thinking I know this guy. He has a pretty distinct look. And I was like, hey, didn't we hang out at that rave? I don't even remember what the rave was. Maybe it was Hard Summer or Beyond or something. It
all blends together from the amount of raves that we were going to when we were in college. It begins to blend together.
Exactly. So couldn't even tell you, but of course, we had already met. So we just sat next to each other, and we were just talking about a bunch of entrepreneur type stuff. And which is great, because if you try to talk to most people about entrepreneur type stuff, it's they just think you're crazy, or they don't get it. And so it can be hard just finding somebody that you can just bounce ideas, mm-hmm. off of. And so we were just talking a bunch, and we started working on some really small projects just to try things out. Nothing really took off that much. We had some limited success on a couple things, but what I realized was it wasn't enough, just our current skill set. We had to get really, really deep into this. And so at that point, I decided I need to learn advanced web development. I can't just do these little bits and pieces. And I got into it, and I remember, so Eli, he was working at a salon, just doing design work. And while I was learning development, he was learning web design. And so when it comes to design is basically everything you see. And then with development, it's basically how everything works and functions. And so we were just honing these skills in the background while we're working on these small projects. And what he ended up doing was he was able to start a web design firm called InSpace. And I thought that was so cool. He grew that to the point where he was able to quit his full-time job and just work on his own business full-time. And so already that is such a hard thing to do. Mm-hmm. It just made him a great business partner, because he understands all the things that go into how to run a business, how to just even like basic things, it's so crazy. Like people spend way more money than comes in, and it goes bust. And I don't know, have you heard any of the things with like Dan Bilzerian?
Well, what about there? He's a very deep man. What about him?
So he's running this business at a $50 million loss.
Jesus.
Which is crazy. And he has all these investors that are pissed off that he spent all this money on like parties and like a ping pong table. But not like $1,000 ping pong table. This is like, I don't remember the exact amount, but it was like tens of thousands of dollars on a custom ping pong table.
It's like a marketable ping pong table.
Yeah, and that was the idea, like wrap it in our brand and you're good to go. and now it's a business expense. But it's just like all these things detract from the core concept of what your business is. So like for 69 Positions, for example, it's an app, and our core business is the app. And if we're like throwing a bunch of parties and stuff and spending business money on parties, it's not necessarily going to help us. If anything, it could like really screw up our finances, you know? And so just having somebody that understands like, look, these are the core things of a business. We have to focus on this first. It's just like, it was a great partnership. And so should we start getting into Solo?
Yeah, dude, let's load it up. Like for those who are listening, the link in my bio or the link in all of my bios across social media, and the one I promote is Solo.to / the guest list pod, which is what I've been using and have had a huge amount of success. I think since you hit me up about it about a few weeks into the guest list, it's seen over like 4,000 traffic visits. Literally right before this said 39999. So it's been a huge metric as far as I can tell if my social media posts are working. And there's a lot of other tools around it that you keep sending me and updating me. And I'm like, Jesus, this is amazing. And it's a great alternative to the Linktree, which is, I guess, like the leader in the space as of now.
Right. And so that was like kind of a trend we were noticing was on Instagram. Like so many people had these links in their bio, Linktree links, and they're really useful because it's like you click on the Linktree link and then it brings up like links to all their other social media or whatever they're promoting. But the thing is, like, the design is really lacking.
Yeah, with Linktree, it's literally just like a few tabs. There's nothing else to it. It's just like you click on it, it'll say Instagram, Twitter, or whatever tabs that you have, and there's nothing really else to it.
No icons in most cases. And like I don't want to rip on them too much, but
it's the great thing about capitalism, right? Just like something you stated right in the beginning, that if you don't like something, you can go out and make it better. It's not necessarily a flack on them. It's that you believe in your skill set and you can hone your team's ability to create something better.
Exactly. And so, and that's kind of the idea we had. Eli and I talked and we were like, wow, like, I think we could do something really better with all these skills that we had building up in the background this whole time. And so that's kind of like how we started Solo. And we wanted to do more than just links. So Linktree, it's all about links. But with Solo, it's kind of like not just links, but you can put embeds for your videos, songs, podcasts, live streams, and more. It's so many things you can integrate this with.
It's kind of like now that I think about it, it's kind of like a link MySpace in a sense, because you can add embeds to it and all of your other affiliates.
In a sense, so it's like perfect for musicians, podcasters, streamers, but even just like any business, because they're all going to have a lot of links. They're all going to have a lot of content to share. And it is kind of like MySpace in a way where it's fun to just set it up and to like drag things around and customize it and set your background, set your picture, set the colors even. And even, just you can set small accent colors that somebody else might not think of, but just Eli is such an amazing designer. He's like, of course, like, why wouldn't you accent that, you know? But at the same time, we didn't want people to just like have free reign and just throw like just put it like, you know, just completely scattered. It's still like you can customize it a lot, but there's still like a base layout to all these pages.
Yeah, there's like a refined organization to it.
And which is great because even if someone's not a designer, you can create a really, really good looking page. You just gotta trust Eli's design framework. And so I remember before we launched it officially, we had I want to say like 100 beta users, and we never mentioned it publicly or anything. We just reached out to a couple of people that we thought would like it, and they shared just like private beta invites with their friends who would also like it. And so that's how we got those first 100 beta testers. And just the feedback they were giving us, it was it was really easy to stay motivated on it because they were so happy and excited just to be creating on the platform. And we were excited to be creating the platform, developing. And so all in all, like this was a much bigger project than 69 positions, because 69 positions, it was like 2 months. We're basically done. With Solo, it took us about a year. We were working on it for about a year. And a lot of that was in a private beta before we publicly launched it this February. And so for that whole year, we were basically working on it for free because it wasn't launched. Like, even if you wanted to pay for it, you couldn't. So just that launch day, and we got our first customer on a recurrent subscription. We were just like, oh wow, like this is awesome. It could like turn into something pretty big. And I remember, so that first paying customer, so I should clear up. It's the platform is free to use. It's free to use, but then if you want additional customization features for your page and some really like more advanced stuff, then there's higher plan levels. And those are either like on monthly or annual subscriptions, but it's still optional. Like, anybody can just create an account, check it out, look around, see if they like it. It's not like we're just like forcing somebody to pay. It's like, check it out. If you like it, upgrade your page. If not, like you can make like a perfectly awesome page just on the free plan. And we see a lot of people do that, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's an incredible platform for anybody who has multiple businesses, multiple links. Like, for example, with the podcast, there's like 4 million different streaming platforms between SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, and new ones come out every day. So to be able to list those all on one page, and then I can throw the YouTube video on there, and they have like the library history and an email newsletter. It makes everything very accessible. And like I said, I didn't realize how much I needed it until after I started using it, and I can start tracking the traffic that's going to the website and seeing like what specific icon or streaming platform people are gravitating towards that I didn't even realize was popular. Like, found out Podchaser was actually much more popular than I had anticipated. So I could push that up to the top of the page and make it easier for people to notice.
Yeah, it's great too, especially for podcasters, because there's so many platforms. And obviously, like, there's a couple that are bigger than others, but you never know. You want it to be as easily accessible for somebody that's trying to listen to your podcast as possible. And
so what is your outlook in this product, Solo.to, as compared to 69 sex positions? Because back then you're an early adopter, you're a first mover. In this space, it's been created already, and you're trying to make an existing product better in an app/web development space that's already a little bit more saturated than the App Store was just created.
And so just one of the things that we did while we were developing this is we didn't want to copy anyone else. So we did this, like we didn't even have accounts on other platforms. We wanted to take a concept and put our own spin on it the way that we thought would make the most sense, look the best, and just be the most useful for everybody on the platform. And I think that if you compare the two, it's so clear that yes, the concept, it's a link in your bio, but the way that we executed on it is just so different. And it's better from our perspective, at least. And just by doing that, we were able to really differentiate ourselves. And when people see it, they don't just think like, oh, like, why would I use this when I use that already? It's like, wow, this is awesome. Like, sign me up.
Yeah.
And
it's, like I said, vastly superior to it. And also, this on scale is much larger because, you know, a decade later, social media is huge. Facebook has 2 billion plus users. Instagram's 1 billion plus. Twitter's, I don't know, I think in like the hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of users. And some people have multiple social media accounts. So this can be scaled literally into could be tens of billions of profiles that exist all over the internet.
And like even today, it's almost required that you have multiple social media accounts. Mm-hmm. Just an example is there's some massive TikTok creators that are on the platform, and they don't know like what's going to happen. Like, could they like lose their entire following if it gets banned in the United States? And that's just like insanely stressful. So now it's like, well, how do you transfer everybody in an efficient manner over to your other platforms? And from what we've been seeing, like Solo is kind of that answer. So it's and who knows, like hopefully Microsoft or Oracle buys them up and nothing happens. But it's just like when you don't have complete control over the platform, you don't know what's going to happen. And it just makes sense to diversify your following across as many outlets as possible, because you don't know what they use on a daily basis. Like, I don't have Facebook, so if someone's putting out content on Facebook, I'm never going to see it. You just want to hit people at every possible outlet where they're consuming content, essentially.
That's something that you can't even predict, that outcome. First, the rise of TikTok, which just, you know, it was existing, but it really blew up during quarantine when people just started finding new things to fixate themselves off. And then Donald Trump coming in and kind of banning it because of different reasons, which also is a topic that could go on for hours. But like those kind of things you can't really predict in the path of entrepreneurism and building a business, but you can always prepare for something like that. Like you can't predict the actual event, but you could predict that of some sort of mass migration or some sort of use case for it that's outside of just a typical link in bio. And that's kind of what you guys saw, yeah.
Yeah. And so for this platform, we launched it in February, but then there was like we were getting users every day, but not a lot of subscriptions. Then it started gaining traction in March. And by April, we were getting several subscriptions every day. And I kind of think like maybe quarantine did have something to do with that, just because everyone, for the most part, is at home now. People are focusing on online stuff, building up their online presence. And it just so happens like the platform we created is perfect for that. It's a marketing tool, essentially, which helps you get your reach out and organize your content in a manner that's easy for you and great for your visitors or followers to consume. So
what is your marketing, without going too much, into behind the scenes, like how do you guys market something that's as simple as a bio link, but has so many more features than just that? What is like the actual market case for it? Like, how do you market it?
It's really hard, especially like if you're just talking to somebody on the street, like you try to explain it and they have no idea and they can kind of get it, but it's really just kind of something you need to see. And it's like you see it and you think like, wow, like this is awesome. Like I need this for my own business or my own project or like whatever they're working on. And so really it spreads almost virally because you see some person using it and then you want to use it for yourself. And then it's so great and easy. Like you want to tell your friends about it too. Like, hey, like I just found this out. Like you got to try this. Just because it's so useful and so it can spread in that manner. But to get to that tipping point, we had to run a lot of ads, especially on Instagram. We did a lot of that just to get our initial users. But once we got those initial users, then we kind of hit a tipping point where now it spreads just organically. Like you see someone else using it, you want it, you use it yourself, and that's kind of that. And it's so crazy. Like just recently, in the past month or so, we've been discovered by a lot of TikTokers. And so originally, like we were thinking like, okay, this is like going to be a huge tool on Instagram, but already like we're seeing like it's even bigger on TikTok. Just like last week, I saw one of the people signed up. Sometimes they have questions, so they'll like file help tickets, and then either Eli or I will respond. But we do it all. Like we do everything with this business. But I checked out his profile, and like my heart just like stopped, like skipped a beat. And he has 20 million followers.
Holy shit!
Over 20. It was like 20.4 million, and I was like, what? And like I was like, can our servers handle this? and it turns out that yes they can handle it. That's another skill that I didn't realize that I would have to pick up, is I'm also like managing all of our servers right now as well. Because just think, it's not just us running the platform. We have to handle the views for every single person that hits the platform. And I think like the potential reach of all those people, and there's obviously going to be some overlap, but our links are reaching like over 80 million people, and it's just insane. And so I'm here like all the time, just like scaling up these servers, and it's fun, but it's also stressful because it's like you have to measure twice and cut once when it comes to this, because if you mess up like one thing, like everybody on the platform is going to have broken pages. And it's like, so I'll just spend like I spent all of last week just doing some server upgrades. But now we're at a point where like we're really, really proud of our infrastructure, and I can get back to coding, which is my forte.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that success. You've definitely found your niche in multiple ways. I do want to emphasize the theme of what's happened through this entire conversation, which is that you can build, multi-million-dollar revenue streaming or downloadable companies, or even outside the tech space, with just you or just a handful of people. You don't need, like we said in the beginning, you don't need venture capital or these vast corporate structures of managers and assistant managers and directors and GMs and all these things. It's becoming an outdated model, and that it just starts with one person, one dream, and one team.
All it takes is one person, one dream, and a vision. Just stick with that vision. Focus on one project at a time. That's something that I wish somebody had told me earlier.
Yes, same.
One project at a time, so you can go the distance with it. It seems like, okay, like I should start up all these things, multiple sources of income. It's going to be great. But what actually happens is like none of them work out, and you only learn like very limited things because your focus is just so split between so many different things. It's all about just like one project, one thing, solo, one thing.
So yeah, that was something that I had learned through my own entrepreneurial experience when I had the antique store and the ticket app, and I was working at Omnia all at the same time, spreading myself way too thin. I thought you think at 24 years old that you could take on the world, and build 3 successful companies or 2 or whatever the case is, but really you just need to gravitate your attention to one task, especially if it's very niched and specialized, even more so, because then you know that you're in the right space.
I agree completely.
So I think we've been going at this a little while. Obviously you said that you are a day one listener, so you know what 2 questions are about to come towards the end of the segment.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. The year is 2030. And since you're an entrepreneur, I'm going to add your name into this. What does the landscape of Solo look like, and Michael Karr as an entrepreneur?
So just tech moves so quick. And for me to tell you what's going to be happening in 2030 is impossible, I think. But I can say, like, within 5 years, we hope to become the industry standard when it comes to biolinks for Solo. And I think that's definitely achievable, you know? And then for myself, I just hope I'm happy coding, working on projects that add value for people. That's what makes me happy.
I think over the next 10 years, we're going to see a dramatic shift into maybe some sort of augmentation reality or even VR with an integration into social media. That's just my own perspective, but who really knows at this point?
Yeah. Have you seen some of the Neuralink stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
It's scary.
It's a hot topic. I tested it on some pigs. I've seen some people talk about it, whether they're content creators or actual, neuroscientists or neurological device integrators. Everyone has some differing opinions on it. But the one point that I think was emphasized is that this is coming no matter what the case is. It just depends on how we ethically govern it.
Yeah. So we'll see.
So it'll be, a link in your mind instead of a link in bio. That's how Solo is going to
Yeah. I don't know. It's still, it's cool, but at the same time, it feels kind of like a little too invasive, cause like what happens when the advertisers get their hands on it? And have you seen Black Mirror?
Yes. That's like the ultimate fear for a lot of people.
Yeah. But we'll see. Like Elon Musk, I feel like has a good head on his shoulders. Sometimes he makes some controversial tweets, but he's a really smart guy and he understands.
Yeah, his big fear is AI takeover anyway, so I think that he's going to be able to ethically govern it.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like he's the right person to be doing that. Like Mark Zuckerberg getting into that, I would move away. I would be very scared.
Yep, and that's right. When Mark Zuckerberg had announced Libra, which was like their cryptocurrency, the government literally like 3 days later was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I remember that.
Absolutely not. That's why the founder is just as important as the tech platform nowadays.
Completely.
And last question is, what does Las Vegas mean to you?
So Las Vegas to me, it's the entertainment capital of the world. And we're on a little break right now, obviously, but I loved all the concerts, all the festivals here, just being around friends and enjoying live music. I miss that. And so I'm really excited to get back to normal, hopefully next year we'll see.
Please, I miss music festivals the most. I just threw up like an old Electric Forest picture on Instagram the other day. I was like, man, I miss these.
Yeah, all those festivals that wanted to go to, but just like a missed opportunity now. Going to have to go when they bring them back.
Yeah, there's gonna be a massive explosion whenever that day does come. It just depends on when that day actually is. Yeah,
hopefully sooner rather than later. If things are safe, we'll see.
Yes, please. And how can everyone get in contact with you and Solo?
So the best way to get in contact with me, just go to my Solo page. It's Solo.to/Michael. And then I have some of my social media on there, which I honestly like. I don't use social media that much, but it's there. And you can find out a link to Solo. I think I have some book recommendations on there if people are interested. And yeah, that's it. Just check out my Solo page.
You're like the Jack Dorsey of your own platform, where you could just put your first name because you're the early adopter.
Yeah.
Or Tom from MySpace.
That we've been seeing like a lot of people just grabbing their first names. I saw like, unfortunately, Jake was already taken.
Yeah, I tried. I did try.
Man, yeah, they go quick. It's a hot commodity.
Have you seen, random question, have you seen people come in and try to hoard names like they do with domain names?
Oh yeah. Which is like frustrating because it's even frustrating when it comes to domain names. Like, I'm sure you've tried to like register a bunch of domain names and they're always all taken. And it's so annoying. Like, if you're gonna take it, at least do something with it, you know? And I feel the same way about people just like squatting on our usernames. It's like, why? Like you can't sell it, at least not right now. What is this, like a long-term strategy? But we just, if it's abandoned, a lot of them registered under like temporary email addresses. And so they didn't verify their email. They never set anything up. And we just like, we free those names up because we have people come in and they have a huge following and they need this and they want their first name. So it doesn't make sense to just have like a random squatter just blocking this from being used. And I feel the same way about domain names.
Smart. I'm glad that you guys had noticed that, because there are people, unfortunately, with bad intentions that just want to hoard it and profitize off of it. Mm-hmm. Well, Mike, I appreciate this conversation. Like I said, I hadn't talked to you in person, and it'd been probably a few years. We'd text and talked over the phone maybe, but to see visually, I'm glad to see your success and actually find out the truth and the story behind 69 positions, because I never actually knew the original story behind it.
I know a lot of people tell the story, but it's just like, it's cool to hear it straight from the source. I feel like, you know.
Yeah. Now we have it captured. Fucking excited. Well,
awesome.
I appreciate it. Good.
Thanks so much for having me here. It's been great.
I appreciate it, man. I'm glad to have you as a follower, and I've always been a follower of you ever since then. And I know that we'll link up in the future and our relationship will continue. So thank you for that. And I thank everybody for listening, and we will catch you next time.